Hi, I'm Jeremiah Prophet, and I'm wearing my special Toyota worker uniform today because I thought the red would look good with this red FJ60 that we're going to feature on today's episode of Prophet's Resurrection Land Cruisers TV. So I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I want to talk to you about mileage. So Sean is the kind of person who tries to optimize fuel economy with whatever he's driving. He makes it a big deal to point out that he gets better fuel economy than me in the shop vehicles. So we're going to do a section of this video about what to expect from mileage, the mileage of some Land Cruisers with different configurations. I haven't figured out exactly which ones yet. We're definitely going to do the LS3 6L80. We're definitely going to do the 5-speed Cummins. We should do a 3FE. 5-speed. What else do we need to do?
I say you do a stock one. You compare it to a 2F 4-speed or 1F 3-speed just to show the improvement in not only power, drivability, but fuel economy. Because if I were to guess, a 1F 3-speed is probably going to get about 10 miles a gallon, maybe 13.
Yeah. Well, that's probably what a 2F 4-speed is going to get.
Yeah, and compare that to an LS, and you might even be still romping on it. You're probably still going to get about 10 to 13.
I got that one that I drove last night up to 104 miles an hour. What kind of mileage do you think I was getting in?
About 1F 3-speed, 2F 4-speed mileage.
But I was passing lots of 1F 3-speed. So you're going to be, you're an unwilling, you don't know this yet, but I'm voluntolding you to be one of the designated drivers of probably more than one vehicle. And then we're going to release a report, as it were. In not this episode, but the next episode, we're going to have our findings. So we got to figure out, luckily there's lots of Land Cruisers around here, but I don't know if we have a 1F 3-speed we could drive like for a full tank of fuel right now. Like that's not an easy thing to come by.
No, we got rid of the last. We had one at the end of this summer that I did a lot of work on, but we had to ship that one long ago.
They go away. So that's what happens. They go to the customer and then we don't have them for testing. But we're going to figure it out. We're going to do a good sampling, and you are the perfect person for. Yeah.
Well, but that's the issue. Is it's all about how much you drive with the pedal. Because I know, like at least in the diesel world, it's the same way you drive a diesel with the EGTs. You see them start to climb, you barely lift. That's also what gives really good fuel economy, in my experience. But the issue with those is, a lot of these older Toyotas is that the throttle's an on-off switch, so you're either getting bad fuel economy or infinite fuel economy.
Yeah, you're gonna have to refrain from driving very carefully and just drive like a normal person.
Drive like a normal person.
Yeah, when you're doing this.
Yeah.
So Alex is at lunch, so we can look at the secret project. Alex doesn't like showing anything that he's doing midway done. He's all right with us showing it when it's done, right? But so this is a 40 series that's going to be really, really unique. This has a 700 horsepower LT4 supercharged 6.2 liter Vortec, and it needs a lot of stuff done to it so that it can accept that kind of horsepower. Alex is mocking up the suspension. Looks like he's got the rear nearly done. And there's something unique about this, you'll see, and it is that he is making the whole frame from scratch. There's a few reasons for that, strength being one of them, and the other, width in the back. So if you look right here at this upper shock mount, this is only possible because the frame is narrower. Normally the outside of the frame would be about here. That would put the shock mount out here in the way of the tire, right? So a narrower rear frame allows for a shock mount right here that doesn't like punch up through the body, right? So it's the right way to do a 4-link with a coilover in the back. So it's a secret project. Don't tell Alex we were here. So this is our outside rack. We just put this up because what we had before to wash under a vehicle are the two, what we call them, the scary death ramps. They used to sit right over there, and you used to have to drive a Land Cruiser up like a 50-degree angle. You couldn't even get out, like hanging from the door to touch the ground, and it was, it might have been a little unsafe, I'm not sure. But anyway, so we decided now when you want to wash the underside of a vehicle, we can do it in style. We talked about this Land Cruiser in the last episode. It's a 40 that's going on an 80 series chassis, and we're building it in Australian style, right? It's gonna be really cool in honor of this thing right here, which is an Australian Well, it was a 4-door. They probably started with a Troopy, I think. I don't know, but it's a 4-door FJ45 pickup that they created there. And it's the inspiration for what's going to be one of my favorite projects ever. But DJ really needed the windshield frame, and he really needed the cowling. And this top was not designed so that it could be removed, unfortunately. And so this is what he did. The cowling is clearly gone, as is the windshield frame. Now this vehicle will continue to be disassembled. We just needed to surgically get the cowling out of there because it needed to go to sandblast. This was very, very, very rusty. And the next step in this build is to mate the cowling to the new body tub we're gonna use. So rather than take the time to disassemble the whole vehicle, well, this is what happens when you let a fabricator disassemble something. Luckily, looks like he 5S'd it well. The shelf looks great. Wait, no, this is right-hand drive. I'm on the wrong side. I feel like I could put the steering wheel in this and still drive this. This is like right out of Mad Max. Hi, you wanker! What do you think? Do I look like Mel Gibson? Here's a fun one in progress. We can't let FedEx find out that we're building UPS Land Cruisers now, though, because they could get jealous. What can brown do for you? This is one of the coolest colors of an FJ40, all kidding aside. It's actually quite a bit darker than UPS brown. It's called Buffalo Brown, and it's the first time we've ever sprayed it, and I really, really like it. It's a hard color to contrast though, right? The blue battery and the ARB compressor look kind of funny, so luckily those will be under the hood. But this is getting very close. It's an import Land Cruiser, Costa Rica, I think. Was in pretty bad shape when we started, but of course that's all better now. Cummins R2.8, 5-speed, custom seats, Dakota Digital, vintage AC, kind of the standard package from us. And of course we'll be featuring this one. It's a cool one.
Are we restoring this now?
Yeah, full restoration now.
No.
Yes.
No.
No, good. That's a good thing.
More work for me.
What are you talking about?
Well, I mean, the fact that there's missing body lines literally everywhere, and you can see all of the mud cracking on all of the panels.
It might be perfect sheet metal underneath all that Bondo. You never know.
Right. Just like that thing looked like really perfect until I started like poking at it a little bit and pulled out all the structural rust, and now there's holes like that big everywhere.
Yeah, sandblasting reveals all, doesn't it? Yeah. Well, we'll come back after we get it blasted. We'll find out.
Oh, we'll find
Don't
out.
automatically assume that there's holes full of stuff with newspaper covered with Bondo.
The entire bottom is peeling like that.
Yeah, so this is one of the reasons why we're going to restore this. So this is a fairly recent paint job on this. I won't say anything about who did it. I don't know who did it. But this is bed liner, and this is unadhered bed liner. And I bet you when we have this body off, we'll be able to get most of the bed liner that's on this off in like one big piece.
Oh, you already can. It's already, the entire bottoms are just...
Yeah, because they didn't prep it. So this is just not prepping the underside of the tub. I don't know if this looks like maybe a red oxide primer, right? That came off of the metal, stuck to the bed liner, but came off of the metal. I'm not sure, but anyway, we'll start over.
Prep is good, because you can already see it's going to start rusting out on the bottom anyways.
Yeah.
And all these spots.
It's a jump rope.
It means more work for me. Don't do that to me. The most athletic Jeremiah I've ever seen right here.
Long enough. Let's see what he's talking about. So yeah, see, that's not adhered. It's pretty tough. We'll give ourselves a finger hole here. It's tough enough to where it tore. Well, I was wrong. That's primer. That's red oxide primer, probably out of a spray can, and that's not good for bare metal, and the bare metal wasn't prepped, and so the bed liner stuck to the primer and took the primer right off the car. But that's bad, because what happens in this situation is, water can get in there and then it's sort of held in there. This could rust this car, into dust, right, in just a few years. Not prepping the parts good enough. Not good. This 100 series was so important to its family that it needed to be restored and preserved for decades into the future. So we got a different chassis, hot dip galvanized and powder coated it. All the other components are either new or restored. Brake lines, fuel lines, all the plastic clips, new rack, new everything. So mechanically, also a new engine on this 100 series. So mechanically, this is gonna be like a brand new 1999 Land Cruiser, and we're still trying to figure out what we're gonna do with the body. You guys have missed this smiling face for a while. It's because he, well, tell him what you did.
I broke a femur doing stupid ski jumps. It looked cool for a minute though, I'm sure.
Did you get anybody on video?
No. Luckily, I got all the cool ones that landed on video, but that one, we left that one out.
Well, we could fake, like we could throw
Recreate
in,
it.
or Todd could edit in a crash. His bone was broken in how many places?
7 different pieces, I think, is what we counted.
It was jumbled. It was what it was. It was crazy how bad. And I mean,
Which way? This one. So I got a rod from about this hip all the way onto this kneecap. 7 screws and yeah, 7 different pieces.
And what's cool is they let us provide the rod, so it's actually a front Burfield from an FJ60 axle. That's
We
awesome.
recycle around here.
Yeah, recycle. Well, it's good to have Atlee back. Look at this.
It's good to be back.
Here's some goo you don't have to scrape.
Nice.
Yeah.
I wish it all came off like that.
Yeah. It doesn't. Trust me. When it's done right, it does not come off like this. In fact, it takes. Well, you've seen it on the episodes. Like, it takes 7 days or 7 guys 2 days to do it.
A little caustic
Anyway.
action.
Well, we're glad to have you back, Atlee. No more skiing for you.
Not for a while
Soft
anyway.
sports. Soft sports.
I thought that was old man sports. Nobody told you had to ski like an old man for it to go that way.
If you name your product
I
after a
refuse to bad name Raptor Liner because I love Raptor Liner.
Yeah, if you name your product after a bird of prey, like Falcon Grip, Raptor Liner, Eagle, if you do that, you know it's automatically not good.
That's not true.
It's just marketing.
No.
I'm gonna call it Raptor Liner.
Like the skin of a raptor is probably just like that. Bumpy and
not attached. Bumpy and unattached to the animal.
that's not the Raptor Liner's fault.
No, you're right. We already talked about that.
Although they did prep it with some 1970s Ruddy Brown primer.
That's what I said.
But what do I know? I just do this. It's that.
I tell him painting's not that hard. All you have to do is stand there and go like this.
No.
Robots can do
This.
it.
Well,
Yeah, what are you doing, Picasso?
I'm just doing a little touch up.
Just a little touch up. So this 40 is a Survivor and a half. This is actually a super cool FJ40. I bet you can't tell what we painted and what we did. That's how good Bob is at matching. All we did on this was a little bit of rust repair. Rear sill, well, a little bit of rust repair, and then we fixed all of the holes on it that somebody had drilled in there. You know, it had the standard CB mount and gas can mount and maybe an extra rear view mirror, I don't know. We fixed all those holes, fixed the rust in the back, and Bob repainted only a little bit of it. About a quarter of it?
Not here
barely.
and there. Little of this, little of that.
Yeah, anyway, because this is the right thing to do with the Cruiser, and you've heard me say this all the time. Like this is not modify it, not restore it, super low mile truck. It needs to be preserved and driven, right? And so that's what we did, and you know, painted about a quarter of it, very presentable looking, but still, you know, you could argue that this is still a Survivor. You know, that you could point out all the stuff that's original paint, and that would make people impressed, and impresses me. This is a 1987 FJ60 restomod. It's a stage 2, which means the body never came off the frame. But it did get a complete refinish of the exterior, the jambs, the engine compartment, basically all the sprayable surfaces of the vehicle. It also got that signature Line-X on the bottom, 3 or so inches, which helps so much with rock chips. This FJ60, like so many of the other ones we've been doing lately, is built in kind of a sleeper form, meaning not a lot of outlandish overlanding or off-road looking gear. Stock bumpers front and rear, stock wheels, just a 2.5-inch lift. With the exception of a roof rack on this one, it appears all stock from the outside. The The engine in this Land Cruiser is the popular Cummins R2.8. I'm not sure how many of these we've done, but it's either 47 or 48, and they're still an engine that we love putting in. In this case, we used a Toyota H55F 5-speed manual, and that's my favorite setup to use with the Cummins. Let me talk a little bit about how important it is to get a big enough cooling stack with this engine. If you hear bad things about this engine, it could be related to things that happen to them when installers put them in with too small of a radiator or an electric fan that won't pull enough air. It's all too common. So we use a ginormous 27 by 19 radiator with a 3-inch core. There's an intercooler in front of that, and then the key to it is this mechanical fan and a really well-designed fan shroud. You have to pull all the available air possible through this big radiator, and this engine is a happy camper with that kind of cooling capacity. It runs 190, something like that, and you can't get it to run any hotter. If your Cummins R2.8 is running in the 200s, 220, 225, it's because your cooling stack isn't big enough. One of the things I really like about our Cummins swaps is how dialed in they've gotten, especially in the 60 series. Because we do it over and over again, we have a really nice set of mounts and accessory mounts, intake and intercooler tubing setups that look and work really well, and it actually is a very tried and true configuration. Now, let's talk a little bit about roof racks. There are a lot of kind of roof racks out there. This is my favorite. It is an easy-on K9 roof rack. They are extremely durable and rugged units. They attach to the roof with 5 mounting points on each side, which is the most in the industry, I believe. They're very lightweight, and so people always ask, what roof rack is that? And the answer is it's an easy-on K9, and we happen to get them from equipped Expedition Outfitters. If you call and get Paul over there, he will hook you up with one of these. So somebody asked me the other day, what kind of paint do you use on these restorations? And the answer is PPG, either single stage or base clear, depending upon what kind of restoration it is. On a solid color, we almost always spray a single stage paint. And the reason that is that's what Toyota used on these. As a matter of fact, that's what Toyota used on solid color Land Cruisers all the way up into the 2000s, believe it or not. Single stage paint is more durable. It doesn't have a failure rate like clear coat does, where you see the clear coat starting to chalk and fall off the vehicle. And single stage paint also just patinas a lot better. One of the problems with single stage paint though is because it's kind of an old school paint, none of the paint manufacturers configure most colors anymore. In fact, they stopped putting research and development into single stage paint with few exceptions. This is PPG Delfleet. It is a paint that they're still working on and improving at PPG because it is an industrial fleet paint, right, for semis and fleet vehicles that are outside in the sun all the time. So this is extremely durable, highly UV resistant, a little bit trickier to spray than base clear, so you got to really know what you're doing, but it's definitely the right kind of paint for a Land Cruiser restoration that isn't a metallic. When we do spray a metallic color like some FJ62s and most FJ80s, we use base coat clear coat, and that's because it's virtually impossible to make metallic paint in a single stage lay down good, right? You end up with mottling and waviness and strange looking things that change with light, and so you have to go to a base coat clear coat paint when you're doing more modern metallic colors. So let's talk a little bit about the dashboard of this FJ60. Some of the things going on here we do all the time. First of all, we've installed the Murphy gauge where the tachometer used to be, and that's virtue of just a little 3D printed bracket that we built. Another 3D piece of ours on the dash is the stereo mount. This is actually a 2-piece unit that has a metal structure behind it, so 2 pieces of 3D printed plastic, metal structure behind it to hold the stereo secure in the dash and give it a very factory look. Another cool thing is the dashboard itself. So if you have an FJ60, chances are the dashboard is cracked. There is that nice cover that Dash Topper makes that you can sort of pop over there, but those things, after they've sat in the sun for a while, they start to bubble up and wrinkle. So this dashboard's actually been re-vacuum formed. We send all of our dashes into justdashes.com, and they do that for us for quite a bit of money, actually. The other cool PRLC addition on the interior of this Land Cruiser is this PRLC Tuffy box. We've changed the configuration. This one doesn't have wireless charging, but we can change the configuration of the top, cover it with matching material, and then of course it has switches in the front of it, in this case for the seat heaters, and there's a USB charging port. And since I can't resist the seat belt also matching my cool Toyota worker shirt, I'll show you the rear seat belts that we add in most of our 60 series restorations. We had 3-point retractable seat belts. In this case, they came from Seatbelt Planet. Seatbelt Planet makes reproduction factory seat belts for FJ60s. These are just a universal 3-point retractable seat belt that we install in the back. Luckily, this lug right here almost always is threaded, if you didn't know that. So you can just install the seat belt there. You still have to make mounting provisions in the back, but luckily Toyota put weld nuts in most of the seat pillars right from the factory. So one thing that we do on every set of seats that we restore that you see kind of shortcuts taken lots of times by other shops are the seat mounting rails and the seat sliders and that kind of hardware on the seat. Usually guys will just spray paint that, and maybe sometimes upholstery shops are doing that work. The reason they do that is because there's a lot of moving parts in that mechanism, and so it's hard to restore it, right? You don't really want to take it all the way apart. There's little pieces that are going to fall out. In fact, they're not even meant to be taken apart. So you could paint them and move them while you're there in the paint booth. You're never going to get all the surfaces. Powder coating isn't really a good option for that same thing. So what we do is we take these apart and we send them in to be zinced. In this case, you'll see this really kind of oyster pearl looking black zinc, and that is because they have been black zinced. Zinc is a a very thin coating, so that doesn't affect the way that they move, and it's really a cool way to do that. Let's go see if we can find some that have been done that aren't in a car. All right, here we go. So these are a little dusty because they've been sitting on the shelf for a while, but these are the seat sliders for this 79 FJ40. And so all you got to do is clean them up really good and then send them in to be done. Almost every city has it. See what I mean by moving parts? I have to actuate this and slide it back and forth. Of course, this needs lubricated, but when you zinc, you get in all these nooks and crannies. If you're painting this, you'd have to slide it back and forth in the paint booth. The act of doing that would mess the paint up, and then in the end, you'd have areas of bare metal. So, pretty cool way to do it. It's the way Toyota did it too, by the way. Thanks again for watching. Please like and subscribe if you enjoy this content. Our YouTube channel needs to grow, and it's just taking these little baby steps. So spread the word, because I believe this is really the best Land Cruiser content on the internet. Thanks for watching. I only ride in vehicles that my clothes match. If the seat belts don't match the shirt that I'm wearing, I'll walk.
It's like, I'm out.
Oh, by the way, somebody asked after the last video how the floor turned out. Here it is. Turned out good. Now, I'll be honest, I only sprinkled this room and the hallway. Then I had to go, and I let Janny take over the sprinkling job in the break room. And she did good. She did good.